what if you had cotton? I don't know, that's really nasty.
I'm good. How are you?
Me too.
How are you? I'm good. I'm good. Uh-oh.
I'm drinking a Diet Coke. I guess I'm advertising. Maybe I
Are they a sponsor?
Water. I don't know. Yeah, if they'll sponsor, I'll
Is that
have one
webcam
every time.
from
Yeah, we have to broadcast live.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was the webcam was attached to the laptop or if there was something.
It's just a built-in webcam.
Okay.
For now.
It works.
We're good?
You did great,
Yeah.
yes, me. Really.
Alrighty, we will call the Cambridge City Advisory Plan Commission to order. Yeah, to take notes last time, but I think there's no point in going through them. We just discussed the pros and cons of proposals. Very lengthy meeting. Did you all receive both the answers to questions from both parties?
I did.
And did you get a chance to read them?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And also Robert sent out a message this afternoon. Did everyone get a chance to read that?
Yes.
I ignored them.
I read it out. I read it.
I read it.
No, that's fine.
I'm sorry. All right.
Okay, is there any discussion? Anything anyone would like to say, ask, etc.?
Well, you want to expand any on what you said? You feel like you said it in the letter, fine.
I don't know how to do this. I wanted to give the letter to the group before and I didn't get it done. I made about 7 different drafts of this letter to try to get to where I was at, but I didn't know how to submit it publicly so that I know we're in a public hearing and I want to make sure that it's on record that I wasn't trying to do anything.
No, your time to do that, like, just as long as it's now available.
Yeah, so how do we make that available? I brought a copy or copies that I don't know.
It would be a memorandum that would be attached to the minutes of this meeting and available. However, this new angled system is on, it needs to be available through that way. However, the metro people,
Okay.
Jim knows all.
Well, at this point, I mean, they're going to know now that this is going to be attached, so I'm assuming if they want to see it, they're going to
They
contact
will.
Sherry and they're going to see it, so. But, you know,
Is there anything you'd like to say in addition to your?
No, I don't, I'm not, I may be the sole opinion of the way I wrote it, so I don't want to, necessarily. I try my best to make my points, I guess, and I'm not trying to call out anybody's opinion that different, and I just wanted, this is what I was trying to share. But, no, I don't have anything with that.
so I'll say you made some good points.
You did.
I mean, that's obvious. One option is to not make any adjustments and, you know, keep it as it is. And, to your point, there are other places we can spend the money. And we do have money issues right now. I'm sure Joe would love to have a new dump truck.
I would.
I would too.
Be very handy.
Maybe I didn't do a very good job, but I am not against changing a zoning ordinance or adapting what we have. My statement is, I think we can do that with this gentleman's help right here, a lot cheaper or maybe even free without doing a whole, just completely replacement of what we have.
So you're thinking pick and choose what exactly you do want.
What is causing problems?
Yeah.
And address those problems.
Can you summarize, just for those that haven't seen it, who are probably, most likely in the room, not everyone in the room has it. Can you just summarize your top 4 points that I think
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 points, 7 points. I'm still reading. I did read through every one of them.
Sure.
Was there 4? And oh my gosh.
Sure.
But
I also,
if you could just kind of walk through it, and maybe that will kind of bring out some conversation, and then how do we compare it to what, we left our last meeting with, which was, the 2 proposals. And then we can get into the, if we have, if there are,
I read it online.
okay.
Okay.
Would you like a copy, or does anybody else need a copy?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a hard copy, I can put it in the file of all the stuff.
So, yeah, quick summary of the points was, like I said, I'm not against addressing problems. I just think a whole change is going to set us up for some failures and more problems. One of it, and our ordinances, existing ordinances better. I always have a concern with consultants. Not that they don't, there are some very brilliant and bright ones. I just, it's very hard for somebody to come in and write a specific thing that applies to us. When we start doing a large sweeping complete change overhaul, I think there's going to set us up for some potential legal problems with legal non-conforming use properties, which is something I've been learning quite a bit about. We have a hard time right now enforcing, not right now, for the history of me being here in this community, we've had a hard time enforcing codes that are existing. It is not one person. It is tough for and I don't know your title today. I'm guessing it's superintendent. That's not, usually there is a code enforcement officer or an inspector / code enforcement officer. To put all of that on his shoulders is asking a lot. And it would be very difficult for us to do now. And if we're adding more laws and additional restraints and restrictions, I think it's going to make it even tougher for him. And then, the concerns that I've heard presented, I think we might be able to do something individually on a certain code or ordinance rather than a full overhaul. And then I think, like Jim said, I've given some suggestions on maybe some better use of the funds since we're going to have some cuts this year. And then the other thing that when you come in and make these legal changes, create new laws that turn people's property into legal non-conforming use with restrictions and what they can do with their property from there on forth, I think you're setting yourself up for some litigation. And I think that's going to, win or lose, I think that's going to be expensive.
Of course, we have that now. I mean, there are restrictions now, so.
Yeah, there's properties in the city that are legal non-conforming use. The property owner doesn't know it, and the city doesn't know it. Yeah, there's things that are right now that are legal non-conforming.
So what would you see as the path forward? Just picking and choosing and
Financially, I would try to spend as little money as possible on something because I don't think this is going to return on its investment. So if there is an issue, by all means, I think we should address it. But I think a complete overhaul is expensive. Now, Jill and Dion have done an excellent job in helping getting some of those folks down. I get that, but I still think that's a lot of money for this town that could be utilized for more, for a dump truck or whatever that is.
I did have a couple of comments on your letter,
Sure.
which I greatly appreciated. I think you, Robert, are making perhaps, perhaps justifiably, I don't know. You're making an assumption that we are going to make dramatic and substantial changes that will affect a huge amount of stuff in town, for lack of a better word. I think the extent to which the laws get changed, that's up to us. I don't think whether it's Mr. Beaver or someone else, someone's gonna come in and say, here you go. You know, this is your new zoning and these are your new zoning ordinances. That's up to us, I think. If we're doing our job, if we're reading the material, if we're looking at the maps, I think that's up to us how dramatically things change. You made a point about consultants. And I think there are advantages to consultants. And the knowledge that comes with that. I think we both, especially the two of us, are concerned about this non-conforming property. It's in sort of our neighborhood. But I guess I am of the thinking that we're a small town, we're neighbors, we can, you know, we can figure this out. And I'd like to think that no lawsuits are going to result. I really do believe it can be worked out. You said you thought there might be heavy restrictions placed on expansions. Again, isn't that up to us to decide? If we decide, hey, you know, it's his property, it's zoned appropriately, he or she can do what they want. Isn't that our decision and not someone else's?
So if a property is deemed legal non-conforming, and Bob can do a better job than me, obviously. But it's my understanding that if they are in a zoning ordinance and they don't comply with that ordinance, even as simple as an offset or a setback, they are considered legal non-conforming.
Yeah, I mean, if they're pre-existing and grandfathered in, they're allowed to, even though they don't meet the current standards.
Right.
If they were there when these standards were put in, which would have been years ago, but if they were there when these standards were put in, you can't make them change. And so they are legal conforming use. But it could alter if they just sell the property and make no changes, no. But down the road, that could become a non-legal non-conforming or an illegal non-conforming.
So for instance, that we had on Church Street with the property that's in an industrial residential property that's in an industrial zone, that is a legal non-conforming use property that we created language so that the bank had smaller problems with that sending that loan. That new ordinances, whatever they say, we're more than likely going to add restrictions. Because our zoning ordinances are not detailed. They're not, you know, I understand there's not a lot of meat there for the whole property owners.
Although we could make them with less restrictions. In the instance in that house on Church Street, I think we
We
actually
actually
made it,
benefited them, we took, well, because
we actually
right,
made it
less
less.
prior law had been, if the house completely tore down, if it was non-conforming, you couldn't replace it. And that's what was giving the
Right.
problem in the bank. So we made it so that you could replace it.
Right.
And retain that legal non-conforming.
Right. When somebody says, if we create an ordinance that says something about an offset or storage outside or what you're capable of, what you're allowed to use this, and it differs from what they are, when they're legal non-conforming, from my interpretation of law is that they are not allowed to add to that property. They're not allowed to, expand or rebuild, which was the case of the house in case of an issue. So if I, as an investor or a property owner, am investing in this town, I want to not own legal non-conforming use property, which I'm afraid which we currently have those, but I'm afraid if we add more ordinances, that we're going to create more of those. And it doesn't have to be a big change. It doesn't have to go from industrial to residential. It could be as simple as you need your industry and industrial one, and you need a fence around it, around side yards. And this is a legal requirement because this is what somebody has established before, and we don't catch it because it's that's my fear.
But again, isn't that up to us to decide that? I mean, I'm not in favor of going around to everyone who has a storage shed in their yard, saying, oh, it has to be so many feet. I don't think we're that kind of a community. I think we want to work together. I don't think we want to make it hard on people. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I'm not suggesting that anybody's has ill will. That's not it at all. There's nothing here that if I heard something like that, I would probably not be on this panel. What I'm trying to, I guess, point out is the possibility that we are going to add laws where we are not great at enforcing current laws, and we're going to spend money to do so.
Maybe you have unintentional consequences.
There's going to be.
That's what you're trying to do.
Can the same be said though, of what we have now, that is 68 years old?
Yeah, obviously, the residence and the industrial properties is case number 2 that I've experienced since being on the Board of Zoning Appeals. That there is a reason, that the Board of Zoning Appeals is there, and we can hear those. But I guess the money, the effort, the lack of public outcry, that's where I stand. I get that, but I just want to make sure that.
I don't know if you're on the minority.
Well,
I mean, I know what you're saying, but it's a complicated situation, really.
yes, dude.
I think you made some good points. And, maybe we're better served, your email had me thinking, okay, maybe we're better served being more, pinpoint on what we want to accomplish.
Dealing with it on an as-needed basis.
Yeah.
If you did that, you wouldn't even need a whole project. I mean, when things have come up, yes, council's asked me to do an ordinance to change this code section because a need was there. And we could do that, and that would not cost any big project money. It would just be part of the everyday cost.
Maybe it's up to this plan commission to, get together and say, okay, what are our main problems? What do we see? What do we think needs to be changed? And, pinpoint specific ones. I don't know.
I think that is, in my opinion, that's a better use of money. Now, we are not, as Jill said, we are not as experienced as that consultant or Bob. We're not.
And I do think there's a benefit. I think the consultant can bring a benefit in that he you know, he obviously has the experience, he can make recommendations and stuff that we probably wouldn't think of.
Right.
So I agree with that. I mean, I'm not a zoning guru,
Right.
never pretended to be. And so he would have some expertise that I definitely can't compete with. I was just trying to say, do you need to spend that cost right now to do that? That was the only thing. I've never been intended to try to solicit the business. Don't need it. Only was just trying to help. If you know, for the people that were really adamant that we needed some change, I was trying to provide some alternative.
And one of the things in one of the proposals was that there are significant, laws that have changed that we need to implement into our zoning. Also, I don't know anything about zoning or very little, but, I know the number one rule of zoning is can't have spot zoning. And so I have a concern that if we address it on a case-by-case basis, you know, if we address something on East Church Street that affects something on East Main Street or anywhere else in town, you know, can we really safely and wisely consider something for one part of town, one street, one block, or whatever, that may have an impact on someone else? I just feel that it might be better to consider it all as a whole.
If we do that and we look at a section, we're using the house on Church Street as an example, but we look at that and we say, hey, that was legal non-conforming, legal non-conforming. I mean, at that time, do we look through other places and spots and say, oh, we have this one, should we look at some of the other ones in town? Do we address that all at one time? And as they arise, do we segment out and say, so we're not spot zoning, we're saying, this issue came up here, we need to take a look now, you know, as we expand that.
And that's what I was envisioning on a case-by-case basis. But Jill's right, you can't just go in and try to fix this property or this property. That would be spot zoning, you don't want to do. But a particular topic, which is I think what you're talking about, or a particular section that just doesn't work for us anymore, can we improve that section? That applies everywhere.
Right, that would apply everywhere.
And see, with the house up on Church Street, we actually did change the ordinance to everything, every residence in an industrial area.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Any other discussion? Abby?
No, it's just a lot to take in, you know, just listening. Kind of makes you, makes me change my way of thinking. I just don't know which way's best. I just really don't know.
So I think in an ideal world, and if Elon Musk lived in town and could supply us with some money,
Yeah, I agree.
we wouldn't be having this discussion. Because we could probably take the time and go through and do everything, you know, like we should be done. But unfortunately, we don't, and the times are not getting better, they're getting worse.
That's my big holdup is, you know, when I think about everything we need, you know, when I think about maybe we could just do this on an as-need basis and it wouldn't really cost us, you know?
Joe, you got anything to say?
I'm still trying to figure out the book right now. Honestly, I mean, with, the consultant, he's read through that, his comment, and then one of his responses, what it is confusing. And for the average person, when I'm going around here and talking to people, you know, they don't understand it. I'm in here hours reading it, talking to different people, getting, you know, what am I not picking up here? Same thing with you're going through it, and obviously
I've made many errors
you
in
know,
interpreting.
and yeah, so interpreting that and talking to people that have done it.
And it might, so I'd like also to state I've done this with multiple towns and I have many errors on all towns. So it's not, it's legal and it's, sometimes I have a difficult time. So
I do agree that it needs updated. It is old. Again, money is always going to be an issue. This has been an issue from what I understand. It's been brought up several times in the past to get this up to where we think it should be, where state-wise, you know, where it should be. So that situation, yes, but reality is we're here in town and just like Jeff said, it's a money issue. But kicking it down the road isn't down the answer either. So.
So what are we gonna kick down the road? We gotta kick something down the road,
Exactly.
you know?
So, I mean,
Does it revert to the language updating to start and then?
yeah, I mean, if the language is, I mean, if you, I typically take a copy to wherever I'm going for a building permit, you know, and when they come in and they're just like, they'll read it and they don't understand it, you know, not, you know, but I mean, it's a lot of legal.
Yeah, and some of that you're never gonna get away from.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
it could be the
exactly.
ideal newest version
Right,
possible of
exactly.
zoning, and there'll be gray areas that you know, that people will debate different views. Yeah.
And that's why I email you.
Yeah, that's right. What do we do now?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I'm just, this is all new to me too, and just getting into the book but having assets here, in town that have been here, that have dealt with this in the past, is who I contact to make sure that I'm interpreting it the way the book states. But how I interpret one thing, you're not gonna interpret that, may not interpret it the same way. So,
there's very few laws that are black and white from the beginning to end. I think that.
I get both sides. I understand both sides of this. The need, the want to, and then the reality of it, what we have and what we
Oh,
can't.
absolutely, yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, but I think that,
Kudos to you for putting that together, because that really be in sync, right? There's a lot of, what is in there. And that was outside of just the comparison and questions from Bob and Brad's, both proposals. So ultimately, when I was reading through the proposals, if we just were looking at that piece of it, right, it is a dollar, it's gonna come down to the dollar, right, of looking at what was people or going to be the same for less cost. So I understand that. You're making me think, right, with some of those questions, and I do appreciate that. It's gonna come down to a plan, and I think we need to probably make that plan, you know, and it's gonna cost dollars. Is the town gonna award it? If they're not, then what's our next steps? And we need to be looking forward to, is it the language? Is it, you know, is it as an issue comes up, then we address it as a whole of the town, the next issue comes up, do we address the town? I mean, what does that look like if we do not spend dollars in this area? I mean, that's really gonna be the focus, right? If the dollars, what's remaining on the table, what does that look like, and where do we start? And is it a quarterly meeting where we all get in a room and start reading it? Because I've had this open more in the last 2 weeks. I don't understand a lot of it, but I'm trying, right? And I would not expect anybody to be carrying this book around. Like, like I have, like if you sat in my office, it's
I
like.
carry it around.
Or computer,
you know.
computer on this book, it's been sitting right in my office. So I think it's trying to figure out what that looks like to benefit all, all of the community the way that we're trying to do. I mean, I think everyone's trying to do their best for the community at this point. But what does that look like if the dollars aren't there? If the dollars are there, then that's, again, we sway this conversation back to what does this proposal look like,
Well, that was a question we were supposed to have an answer to at the last meeting. Did we get an answer to that question? What will the town council say?
Well, I can't speak for the entire town council, but, some of us are here, but. So let's talk about the money portion of it, right? So we did budget money this year for this project. However, we've had money issues, with the town, and it comes up. We've addressed, what we can. We can still spend that money on this, but we can also jump over and use that somewhere else if we need to. So that's kind of where the money portion of it is. Yes, there's money appropriated for this. We can still spend it on this. If the planning commission wants to take it to the council and say, we recommend you do this, this is our recommendation, then it's up to them. Now, I can say right now, and I don't know, Mike's not here tonight, Debbie's here, Gary's back here. I don't think anybody's in favor of spending $30,000 at this point. Okay, let's do that. Would we spend $10,000, $17,000? I'm not sure I can answer that, Jill, to be honest. It's a tough sell right now. There are other even larger decisions coming up, even bigger than this, that I think we're gonna have to make, but, I feel very strongly we need to do something. And, I think we still can, even if we don't come with a recommendation to spend this much money. I think we can still say we're going to meet on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, and specifics that we feel are an there if Joe's having issues with setbacks or whatever, we can review those and get those fixed. If there are other issues like we have with the house up there or whatever, and maybe we need to go at a laser focus on the issues we know that we have and get those fixed. And that's our other option, right? So the option is we go with and try to review it all, or we try to laser focus it at this point. And honestly, I've talked to most of the board, and I don't know how to go. Go ahead.
I was just gonna make a monetary comment if I may.
Yeah.
Only because later in the year, a couple months, Sharon and I, we couldn't get us a budget for next year. Based on the last meeting at AIM, it's my understanding that as we speak right now, and it's gone, that's a lot of money each year, $55,000 for us that we've used for those kind of special projects and all that. I would feel so much more comfortable for if you want me or anybody, if we knew that it was back. Now, AIM thinks it will come back next year. So I'm not doing this to justify kicking it down the road, but that could be a reason to kick it down. It would be so much easier for you to approve any expenditure once we knew that it was back, rather than right this minute. So is that enough to kick it down the road? I don't know, but I just know that right now, without that edit money, we're even worse shape than what we thought we were going to be the first year.
And right now it's out.
And right now it's out. It's supposed to come back. And I would feel better spending anything that you intend to once we knew it was back, which would be, that's next January, February, when the General Assembly meets again. Again, we can't bank on it that he says that's going to happen, but let's hope that it does. And if it does, I'm more comfortable.
Are there any comments from anyone else? Mary, Ben, Millie, Sherry?
I guess from an outside perspective, what does Wayne County have and what can you parallel to that's already existing from the county? You just copy and paste what they do.
I think
Yeah,
it's
nothing-
different. We would look at Richmond, we would look at Wayne County, I already made copies of Centerville, Hagerstown, so have to make some suggestions too. I differ a little bit with the other proponent that said that we have a lot of illegal portions. They're outdated, I'm not sure they're illegal as such, to the extent that he pointed out. But does it need updated? Absolutely. It's just a matter of when and how much you want to spend, you have to spend.
One of the co-ops he did make, Brandon, was, for like religious use, some others. Do we show that we're not, we're out of compliance with that for the state laws? That we could add to the list to address immediately if we're not in compliance with,
That's something we could look at.
is there?
I think we'd add some non-discriminatory language back, required to religious, maybe something new that I just have not had cause to look at.
I just know in the questions, that was one of the questions we got,
Sure.
and Robert submitted that question and just said, are we,
Yeah.
not up to date? Let's get it on. And that would be one that I would ask.
I would just make that several years ago during COVID, we met in King's Cafe and we talked about doing this ourselves. And we were gonna start doing it ourselves. Decided we would contact a consultant to help us. I think this will involve an incredible amount of work and effort on each of our parts. And I hope we're up to the task. I don't know if we'll have all the intelligence and knowledge that it takes, not intelligence, but knowledge. But I guess that's an option, what there wants. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I think if we go with the laser focus where we try to do it ourselves, I'm not sure we need a motion.
I'd still like to have a motion.
Yeah,
I'll make a motion that, because obviously we're the commission, the council obviously has, the say.
Any motion you guys make would be a recommendation.
It's just a recommendation. I would recommend to the town council. My motion is to recommend to the town council that we wait another year funding and we will come forward quarterly, monthly, whatever we decide to try to address any problems that we find, anybody finds that we can. That's a percentage. That's it.
Is there a second for that motion? I'll second that. All in favor? Oh.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Jim, did you vote?
I just started to say aye and didn't get it in.
So that was an aye from Jim.
Yep.
And Dion? I didn't vote.
Non-votes and aye, by the way.
Just the
Don't let it
verbally.
pop off.
Yes,
Yeah,
if
you
you want
have
to
her.
vote, then I also would explain, and I don't know that that's necessary.
You can explain,
I
it's fine.
would say aye, because what I think is going to happen is even if we decided to take a proposal to the town, it's going to be denied, and we're gonna be right back to our next steps until we get funding. That's my case. Do we not waste more time, but can we just start 5 years ago? We would have been done by now.
Yeah, maybe.
5 years ago, if we would have started, I feel like we would have been way further down the road, but we thought we were doing what,
I would agree. And it's a path forward at least. That's,
and I
that
think
was my eye.
that's kind of where I stand. I don't want to be told no because of funding and then turn around and say, now go do it yourself. We can, start next month or what have you, get your list of concerns, work with you on a timely manner and go. I just don't know what that would look like.
If it helps, and with the council's blessing, I can take a couple hours and look at, is there anything just blatantly wrong compared to the state law? And do that just as part of my routine attorney job. So that I can bring that to your next meeting and say, hey, why don't you look at this section? Is that something you want to address immediately?
Well, a motion was made, seconded, and voted. Any further discussion?
Put your clothes on and get ready to work, and that means I'm prepared.
I do think we need a commitment from the group to, at least show up quarterly, if not more often.
Do you have a suggestion on how we can move it?
Not this time. It would probably be often. Go ahead, Tom.
This is a new topic, and I don't know if, because this was, but I would like to ask a question about annexation. Does that fall under the planning commission?
Not really.
No.
I mean, there's some overlap between it. It's been a while. I did a memo to council a couple of years ago on annexation. It's primarily councils, but the planning commission may have some input. I'll have to go back and check that memo and see just what is the interrelationship. Again, council has time to say, sure, planning commission may have some input, again, making recommendations.
Any further discussion, question, comments, etc.? We stand adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody can.
Thank you.
It's so delayed.
Three people watching.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Shannon said she dropped a check off. You
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's on the plate. So
No, I got it. Thanks. What time you gotta leave?
we live noon tomorrow, so
Oh,
I'm
be
still
careful on
working
Monday.
tonight.
And are you calling in then Monday?
And I'll call in with
Okay.
this clock. What number should I call?
I'll call myself.
Call yourself.